I know. Do you believe this? Me, vulgar lounge entertainer. Tonight on the show, Archbishop Desmond Tutu is on this show. I know. I just met him backstage. Well, we call it backstage. It's, you know, the corridor. And some people like to gather there because it doesn't leak like the studio. Anyway, I never mind that. I met Archbishop Tutu back there, and I was just introduced to him, and I started wanting to be better. That's amazing, isn't it? So I'm very excited about that. It made me think of the first time I watched Oprah when she had Nelson Mandela on. She told a story about meeting, the first time she had Nelson Mandela on, she met Nelson Mandela backstage before he came out, and she said hello, and you know when Oprah's kind of like, oh, about meeting someone, it's someone pretty intense, and she said that she met him and were talking for a little bit, and then Nelson Mandela said, so what's the show about today? and Oprah said, kind of you. It's about you. And that's kind of how I feel. I feel like Oprah tonight. This is a show about one of the most powerful, influential, awe-inspiring figures of the 20th and the 21st century. A remarkable human being that, for some reason, said yes to being on the show. I know, I'm as mystified as you. Take that, newscasters, and we'll be right back. It's on stay up, it's been a long, long day, and you've got the same man as you go. But hang on, leave the TV on, and let's do it anyway. It's okay, tomorrow's just your future yesterday.
Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Ferguson.
TV's Craig Ferguson. Thank you. All right. Okay. Thank you. That's enough. All right, that's enough. Please, really. Honestly, that's enough. It's starting to sound a little bit fake. It's starting to sound a lot fake, actually. But never mind, because it's Hollywood, and fake is what we do. It's a great day for America. It is. It's a great day for America. There's a... Oh, stop. There's a fertility clinic here in Los Angeles. You can see out the window there, the great city of Los Angeles. A fertility clinic here is offering parents the chance to select the eye and hair color of their babies. I know! Don't you remember the good old days when people would just get pregnant, have their 8 babies, and go on Entertainment Tonight? What's happened? And the Jonas Brothers, aren't they adorable? Tick, 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 tick. The Jonas Brothers are designing their own video game. But they're very into purity, the Jonas Brothers. So the game's going to be very difficult to play. No one's allowed to grab the joystick. I don't know how it's going to work. Now, it is a great day here at this show. We have a very special guest on the show tonight. I am not kidding you. Archbishop Desmond Tutu is here tonight. What? I know. Father Tutu from South Africa. Now, I am going to ask the question that's on everyone's mind. I will say, Bishop, as a bishop, do you always have to move diagonally? I won't. It's a chess joke. All over the country, chess players are like, finally, a joke for us! And one that doesn't involve queens. Although, I did tell the joke, so technically there was a queen involved. Anyway, never mind. Since we have Desmond Tutu on the show, things are going to be a little bit different. There'll be no wacky comedy sketches tonight, no Desmond Tutu in a tutu or anything. Father Tutu is a dignified world leader. And he said no. He said he would like to escape from this program with his dignity intact. I'm like, fine, but you'll be the first, I said. Now, you might not know, or maybe you do, that Father Tutu won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984. But not a lot of people know that a few years ago, he was voted People magazine's sexiest man alive. I made that up. Now, Desmond Tutu is from South Africa, which I think is a fantastic name for a country, because it tells you exactly where to find it on the map. South Africa. There you are. That's what they should do. We should do that with some of the states, the harder to find ones. You know, Oklahoma could be North Texas. There you be right there. Or North Dakota could be South Canada. Florida could be shaped like a penis. Where is it on the map here? Oh, I see it. Anyway, South Africa, of course, used to be known for apartheid. Some of the kids might not remember the apartheid, but it was apartheid was an evil system of state-sanctioned racism. The word apartheid is actually Dutch for separate hood. I know. The Dutch, of course, have given us two very toxic things over the years. They've given us apartheid and the Dutch oven. Both very toxic. Hey, I'm just telling the news. South Africa has a fascinating history, which I'll try and sum up for you now, but I'll do it quickly so you don't get the feeling that, you know, I'm giving you information or all of the stuff that you don't come to the show for. Basically, South Africa, as I understand, it's a little bit like this. Things were going fine for the people living there until the Dutch showed up in about the 17th century, and they started colonising. Now, by the way, colonising is an old-fashioned word that means stealing stuff from countries that don't belong to you. And it wasn't the cool Dutch people that we know today. It wasn't, you know, with their legal marijuana and their armpit hair and their relaxed attitude about boobies. That wasn't... No, these were the old-fashioned Dutch people, the bastards. You know, they were angry, they were uptight, they bullied people. They could have used some of that legalised marijuana that they're so fond of. It's funny how the minute the Dutch legalised the marijuana, they stopped, you know, colonising and just kind of chilled out and went, oh, it's okay. I'm not endorsing it, I'm just saying, interesting, isn't it? Anyway, in the mid-19th century, the Dutch colonies of South Africa suffered a horrendous catastrophe that made a bad situation even worse. That catastrophe was known as the British arriving. The British... Don't tell me. The British... They got around. The British, what they do is they sailed out to South Africa and they saw a land rich in diamonds and gold, and they said, I say, this place is splendid. What? We should call it... I love it here. All we have to do is just kill the Dutch people. Which basically led to the First Boer War, and then that led to the Second Boer War. That was Boer War II, the legend of Curly's gold. That happened. Yickety-yak, stuff happens, Boer War, World War I, World War II, you know, 1948, I think the National Party takes over in South Africa, institute apartheid, their great idea, and then by the 1980s, South Africa was a racist hell zone. Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life in a South African prison, so Desmond Tutu travelled all over the world, making the argument that doing business with a racist South African regime was immoral. And there were a few holdouts. Most people were like, you're right, we won't do it. But there were a few holdouts, people who opposed sanctions against South Africa. They were Margaret Thatcher, Darth Vader, and... I think Goldfinger as well. He was like, what? No, I have to do... Did Goldfinger talk like that? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Cheney. I get them mixed up. Anyway. Oh, shut up. Anyway, what happened is that Bishop Tutu succeeded in getting dozens of nations to enact tough sanctions that hit the apartheid regime right in the trousers. And in the end, apartheid crumbled, Nelson Mandela was released from prison and was elected president. Mandela this is amazing story. Nelson Mandela invited a man who tried to have him executed to his inauguration. That's got to be awkward. I mean, that's like inviting your ex-wife to your wedding. It's kind of like, so, how's things since you tried to have me killed? Not bad. Chicken or fish? I think it's incredible that Nelson Mandela went from, prison and then elected to high office. Because here, recently, particularly in Illinois, people usually get elected to high office, then they go to prison. Well, we can always hope. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. See you in a minute. I'm very excited about Desmond Tutu being here. He is, of course, known as the moral conscience of South Africa because, he hasn't stopped the fight against injustice all over Africa. He's taken a strong stand against Mugabe, Robert Mugabe, who's a dictator who's run Zimbabwe into the ground. Now, they do have elections in Zimbabwe, it's true, but I'm not sure you can call it a democracy when one of the candidates is running as president for life. Yes, I'd like to say that as the guy that's going to win, I'm strongly against what you just said. I wonder how you run an opinion poll in a system like that. What do you think? I think it might be Mugabe. Yep, it might be. Anyway, you know what I want to tell you about? Just very quickly. I come from a town called Glasgow in a country called Scotland. Originally, that's where I'm from. Before I became an American, thank you. I lived in Glasgow in Scotland, and during the 1980s, the Town Council of Glasgow, and I'll always love them for this, there was a building in Glasgow, this is during apartheid, there was a building, the South African attaché was in a place called Royal Exchange Square in Glasgow. And the City Council decided that they were going to rename the square, and they decided to rename it Nelson Mandela Place. And the South African consulate was right there. Now, the only way that the Praetorian government could get their mail was if they wrote Nelson Mandela Place on every single piece of correspondence. And I think, it's times like that when Scottish passive-aggressivism just warms your heart. It really does. It makes me feel good. Now, what I want to say, I think a lot of people, when you think of, when you hear a story from Africa, particularly a political story of Africa, I think a knee-jerk reaction, unless you're interested in that, is to go, I can't handle this. This is a story which although it has many awful, tragic elements, it is a story which has an enormous amount of hope. This is a story which is an example. If you imagine, to try and figure what this is kind of like, imagine, if you will, the United States of America elected a president with dark skin. Now, imagine the United States of America elected a president with dark skin in 1958. That's what the enormity of what this man and the men that worked with him, what they did, it is astonishing. Please join us. We'll be right back with Archbishop Desmond Tutu, everybody. And only guest tonight is the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. He's a passionate advocate for human rights. Earlier today, he was in Indian Wells, California, speaking before the Desert Town Hall there. And he turned up here. It's an honour to have him. Please welcome Archbishop Desmond Tutu, everybody. Thank you. Father Tutu, welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on this show. And I know you must be very tired. You just, was it 22-hour flight from South Africa?
I'm looking for 2 clones.
2 clones? Oh, I see. Yes. I'm like, what have you been taking? What did they give you back? Yeah, well, you're going to need it.
I'm just glad to be here. But I think you're crazy.
You think I'm crazy? Well, what on earth gave you that idea? Now, you've met some crazy. I mean, P.W. Botha was crazy.
No, a different kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You send them to asylums.
Yeah.
No, not you. We want you.
Oh, really?
We want your craziness.
Thank you. Listen, I often wonder when you have such a reputation. I mean, I gave you a huge build-up coming out. Does it embarrass you? Does it make you feel awkward?
Did you hear the story of the woman who went to her husband's funeral with her son, and the minister did what you did about me, and she turned to her son and said, "I think we've come to the wrong funeral."
Oh, no. I think you're being a little modest there. I mean, it can't have been easy what you were up against then, and up against that. I mean, I read your editorial in the New York Times this week. I mean, you're still doing a lot of work in South Africa, and in Africa, all over Africa.
Yes. Yes. One of the wonderful things about having a dark skin is that when people say things like you were saying,
yes,
you don't see that I'm blushing. No, there's a lot of awfulness in the world.
Yes, I know.
And most of us know that. But what we don't also recognize is there's a great deal of good.
I was going to ask you about that because you have clearly you're a very high cleric. You're a theologian. You studied the religions of the world, particularly your own, I would imagine. You know what so what I'm thinking is, did you ever read Thomas Aquinas?
A little bit.
Right, you know Thomas Aquinas when he goes on about how people are essentially good, and for evil to exist, evil is an aspect of good, that if evil were the only thing, then there would be nothing. That's Thomas Aquinas, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you find the good when you're dealing with a situation that you and Mr. Mandela were dealing with the Praetorian government? Where do you find the good in these people? Where do you find the ability for truth and reconciliation?
Yeah. One of the important things to keep remembering is that evil is an aberration. That is why you get upset. I mean, you get upset when a baby is abused or a woman is abused, I hope.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I do, yeah. Well, you gave me that look like I didn't. I do.
You know, I mean, we went to Darfur.
Right.
And it's one of the most awful places in the world. I mean, most of the description of it fall very far short of telling you about the reality. And yet there were two things particularly that struck me. It was, we met with the internally displaced persons, the refugees.
Right.
And you talked to them, living in the squalor and the unspeakable squalor. They could laugh. And the men who were Muslim were wearing white robes, clean, spotless. And you said, now where could they get the water in this place to do this? But the other, that's the first.
Well, where do they get the water, though?
It's actually, I mean, part of it is they get trucks bringing it in.
Okay.
If the women try to go and get firewood outside of the camp, they are raped.
What?
Yeah. It really is awful, and yet there was this resilience. You know, what human beings are incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you are incredible.
Oh, no, stop. But what I was going to...
The second thing. Shh.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, you're right. No, you're good.
But the second thing is, you have these incredible human beings who come, most of them from very well-to-do places, who are the humanitarian workers. We hardly ever hear enough praise of fantastic people. Many of them actually, go there. It's their second, third mission.
Right.
And you say, what makes them do that? They get no kudos. It is just that they would not, in fact, be able to live a normal life if they didn't go and do the kind of things. So there are fantastic human beings. There really are.
Is that how you hang on to your faith when you see such evil and such injustice? As a churchman, it must be very difficult. Or maybe it's not, I don't know, I presume too much. But is there a test of your faith when you see how awful the things can be?
Yes, I mean, it is that evil is evil. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't, seek to minimize the ghastlinesses. I mean, when people put others into gas chambers, that's awful. I mean, there's no word hard, good enough to describe the level of evil. I mean, in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, we heard some gruesome accounts. I mean, somebody says, we gave him drugged coffee, we shot him in the head, and then we burnt his body. It takes 7-8 hours for a human body to burn completely. And so whilst the body is burning here, we're having a barbecue here, drinking beer and laughing, and there's a human body burning, and here's cow flesh burning. And we say, what could have happened to the humanity of anyone that they could sink so low?
What could happen to that? And how do you find reconciliation? How do you find forgiveness in that? It must be, it's a gargantuan task, the idea.
It is, and yet you met many people, not just black people, I mean, white people who had this incredible magnanimity. One woman was with friends at a Christmas party at a golf club, mm-hmm. and one of the liberation movements threw hand grenades into the party, and several of the people were killed. She wasn't killed, but she was so badly wounded, she was in ICU for several months. Now she's talking, and she says she couldn't, when she came out, she couldn't wash herself, she couldn't clothe herself, she could not feed herself. It was done for her by her children. And then she says, a condition that leaves her almost totally hopeless. She says, it has enriched my life.
Wow.
Enriched my life. This must be crazy.
It's very advanced for me. I don't get it.
And then she says, I'd like to meet the perpetrator.
Wow.
I'd like to meet him in a spirit of forgiveness. I'd like to forgive him. And then she says, and I hope he forgives me.
Wow.
I mean, that's mind-blowing.
Is that the only way to freedom, is forgiveness? I remember hearing something about the Dalai Lama talking about he felt he was in danger with the Chinese because he felt himself losing compassion for them, which I didn't really understand at the time, but it sounds a little bit like what you're saying.
The thing is that you and I and all of us, even when we don't accept it, or understand, It is that God created us in such a way that I can't be human on my own. I wouldn't know how to walk as a human being. I wouldn't know how to think. I wouldn't know how to speak. I wouldn't know how to be a human being except through learning from other human beings. And so our humanity is bound up with one another's. And you see, we saw it in South Africa. If you carry out a policy that dehumanizes others, in the process, you are dehumanized.
Right.
You know, and so you understand now. You understand how others can say, in order for me to be me, I want to forgive you. Because, have you discovered, when you don't forgive, frequently you feel it in your tum-tum.
You do.
Yes.
I was told that resentment was like drinking poison and then expecting someone else to die. You know, that it has that.
Oh, that's a beautiful.
Thank you very much. It's not mine. Father Tutu, we have to take a break, and then we'll be right back. We'll be right back with Archbishop Desmond Tutu, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Sir, may I ask you a little bit about your relationship with Mr. Mandela? Are you friendly? Do you keep in touch? Do you talk?
Yes and no. I mean, he's actually an incredible human being. I mean, all of us have come to accept this, but it is for real. You know, one day I go and have lunch with him, and I'm driving from Soweto to town where he lives. We finish the lunch, and he goes to the door, and he says, "Driver!" He's calling out for my driver, and I say, "Well, no, I don't have a driver. I chauffeured myself from Soweto." He doesn't say anything.
Right.
2 or 3 days later, he calls, "Mpilo, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you, but I didn't like the fact that you were driving yourself. And so I have asked 1 or 2 of my friends whether they can help you." And he genuinely can't stop himself when he sees what he believes is a need.
Right.
He wants to do something to meet it. And so now I have funds that enable me to have someone to drive me. But he's stubborn too.
Nelson Mandela's stubborn, there's news. 27 years in prison. No, I'm not moving a damn inch. Let me out. That's pretty stubborn.
No, but he's beautiful. You know, often people say 27 years. Oh, what a waste. Just look at what this guy would have done. No.
Right, of course.
No, because you see, when he went to jail, he was angry. Mm-hmm. An angry young person who was appalled by the miscarriage of justice that had happened.
Of course, understandably.
And it is, you know, suffering can make you bitter, but suffering can also, I mean, it burns away all of the chaff.
Yeah.
You know, and Nelson learned there to put himself in the shoes of the other, trying to understand how the Afrikaner must be feeling. His compassion, his magnanimity, his willingness to forgive those who had done him such an injustice, had done his people such an injustice. Incredible. And we were very, very blessed, because you can imagine if we had had someone who said, "We want to get our own back."
Yeah. You'd still be at it. you know, it'd be still going
if
on.
we were going to be alive still.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Our country would have gone up in flames.
Sure.
And that's why we say there actually is no future without forgiveness. Just think, if you, I know you don't do this, but
What?
if you quarrel with your wife,
God bless you. Yeah.
you don't know.
No,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you don't quarrel with yours either. I know. I went too far. Yeah.
But you know what would happen to that relationship if one of you didn't say those words which are in any language the most difficult. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Or I mean, you sometimes you squeeze them out of you.
Yeah. That's how I get them out. Yeah.
But if you don't, there's not much hope for that relationship. If you just build up the resentments, and one day, a very small thing, just look at the toothpaste tube. He's done it again. I mean, he squeezed it in the middle.
Yeah, that's terrible business.
No,
yeah.
I hear that is what happens. I mean, I know.
No, you would never do that. I understand.
No. I hear that is what they do. I mean, you throw your towels all over the place, and think that there will be somebody who's going to pick them up.
Yeah, you're giving away a lot tonight, Father Tutu, you know.
No. I'm just telling you about what I have heard.
All right, okay.
We would have been in real trouble in our country had it not been that we said it is important for people to be able to tell their story. Have you found out how powerful telling one story can be?
A little bit, yeah, I know a little bit about that, yeah.
Well, I mean, we had a young man. He was blinded by police action. He came to tell us his story. When he finished, one of the panel of the TRC said, "How do you feel now that you have told your story?" Unbelievably, a smile broke over his face. And he said, he's still blind. He said, "You have given me back my eyes." That telling the story as you did in the TRC, it was telling it to the whole world. Mm-hmm. It's reported very, very extensively. It was an incredible rehabilitation, a wonderful acknowledgement that what he had done had not just gone up in smoke.
It had happened, and people knew
And
about it.
yes, and that he was part of the reason why we now had a free South Africa.
Tell me if you can. We're almost out of time, but I'd love to hear how your feelings on the American state of affairs right now with the election of Barack Obama. Do you? Is this? Yeah, I thought you were.
But now you realize actually just how bound up with one another we are.
Sure.
That there was a time when you wished, that America could disappear from the face of the earth.
Well, not me, but I think some people were angry at us.
Yes,
Yeah,
there was a lot of anger, not against Americans. There was a lot of anger against the policies of a particular administration.
Yes.
The apparent arrogance. Look at the awful things that you were doing. Not you, you.
I know.
In Guantanamo Bay, in Abu Ghraib.
What I would say in defence, although I don't feel you attacking, but what I would say in defence of that is that I always felt that a very effective, perhaps the most effective, as it turned out, voice of dissent against these things was from inside the United States. The pressure from within eventually, you know, discarded these policies and moved away from them.
I mean, let's come back to the beautiful thing.
Okay.
November, when was it?
Last year, 2008.
Yes,
Yeah.
November the 4th? What?
November the 4th, yeah. Because this is like my citizenship test. Come on, ease up.
Well, you know, we were sitting, we were at a game lodge, and my wife was sitting in front of the television, and we were watching the celebrations in Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
Yeah. And she was sitting there, and tears were streaming down her face. And she said, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm so happy. You know, and all of us were uplifted.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just here. And I came in January the 20th. Fantastic. I mean, I had a ticket and thought we would be able to wend our way through the crowds.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, you saw people of all sizes, shapes, and especially for someone coming from a former racist country, it was so heartwarming to see the number of white people. Well, actually, you would not have been elected if didn't.
But there is that, yeah.
That, and people were walking with a new pride.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a palpable. You could feel the goodwill, the joy, the pride. Some of our friends said, you know, I caught myself waving the American flag, which I used to burn. You know,
right.
This was an American. That, and now, a new hope. I mean, the world was feeling, hey, America is experiencing a kind of Mandela moment.
Oh, right, okay.
You know,
well, here's, Bishop, we're completely out of time. I'd love to talk to you more. Yeah, no, please. That's right. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, everybody. We'll be right back.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Greg?
Oh, how very appropriate to have such a spiritual kitten. Well, what did we learn in the show tonight? Well, normally I have to make stuff up, but I actually learned a whole hell of a lot. Usually it's like, well, you know, stuff about celebrities and, ooh, I farted and everything. But I think actually tonight I learned that a vulgar lounge entertainer can share space with a Nobel Peace Prize winner and look like an idiot. But in my defense, I challenge you to do better. That is the single most impressive human being I have ever met. And I not the chair, Desmond Tutu. And I think what astonished me was, if you know even a tiny amount of the story of South Africa, that people would even attempt truth and reconciliation is mind-blowing. I think I learned more than I thought I would ever learn being a late-night television host. Who knew? Good night, everybody.